What's up, everybody? So it's been exactly 1 week since Wilderness 101 at the time of filming this, and this is the recap of my race out there. Real quick, if you guys are interested in anything that you see in this video, product-wise or gear-wise, either check out thebicyclestation.com or hit me up in the DMs or send me an email or whatever. We'll get it figured out. Thank you to everybody who's been ordering parts through us and doing custom builds. That's the best way you can support the channel. So let me know if you need anything. If you all are interested in endurance mountain bike racing, we have a endurance mountain bike race here called Hoosier Downcountry. It's on September 7th. You can sign up now. We have the registration link in the description. It is a true endurance mountain bike race, very little gravel roads, very backcountry. If that sounds interesting to you, definitely check it out. I worked really, really hard on making this route. And if you're into kind of like races like Wilderness 101 or the NUE races, like definitely check out Hoosier Downcountry. It'll be right up your alley. Wilderness 101 is a race that I've been trying to attend for a while. I remember one year I was like really training hard for it and I ended up getting COVID like really bad.
That was like 2 years ago.
That was 2 years ago. Last year I can't remember why I didn't go, but I didn't end up going.
ORAM.
Oh, we chose to go to ORAM instead, okay. And then this year I almost didn't go again. I had, pretty sure I had COVID 2 weeks before this race. And I felt terrible and I didn't really ride my bike for those 2 weeks. And so I literally was driving out there and I was like contemplating just turning around because I was like, man, this is not really where I want to be going into this race. But like, I really like have committed to doing the series as best I can. And I'm in the points in the NUE, like I kind of care about it because I have some decent points. So I was like, I might as well just go and try it out. And I'm glad I did. We'll talk about the race and what went on, and then we'll talk about the gear, or that doesn't make sense.
I think you're gonna hit on the gear as you go through the race.
Yeah, because it's interesting. So
Yep.
Wilderness 101 is out in a lot of the races in the Rothrock State Forest in Pennsylvania, close to Penn State and State College, Pennsylvania. And we actually, luckily, on the way back from our Vermont vacation where I got COVID, we actually stopped there and I was able to pre-ride about 30-ish miles of the race course, and very glad I did. The race is really interesting because the majority of it is just gravel. Like honestly, I think there's around 10 miles of actual single track in this whole 100-mile race, but those 10 miles of single track are so severe that the time investment that you spend on those trails actually is really significant. Been talking about building this bike back up for a long time, and this was the perfect event for it. The BC40 resurrected with flight attendant 120 front and rear. I thought it was an excellent bike choice for the brutal rocks out there in Pennsylvania. There's just no break in the trail. Like, when you're riding these trails, like it's just a pile of boulders on the ground. No brakes, nothing's easy, just bouncing around on sharp rocks, and you have to be fully mentally engaged the whole time. So I started the race out, and it starts up like a couple mile climb that's gravel. And talking to some of the racers that have done the race before, like kind of at the beginning, it was very clear to me that making the selection was critical to this event, and they were right. So I basically barely held on up the first climb. Like I got dropped at the very top, and then they slowed down a little bit once it got on the ridge, so I was able to catch back on. Had I not been able to do that, this would have been a completely different day. But just because I was able to kind of get over my illness a little bit and got up the climb, I then was treated to about 20 miles of just drafting in the pack. And I mean, I'm serious, it was like 20 miles. Like we were just cruising and we were going like 20, 25 miles an hour. Nobody was gonna catch us. Like if you didn't make that pack, you were done, like period. And so for anybody looking to do this race in the future, even though you might be blowing over the top of like whatever your power zones are, it's completely worth it on that first climb. If you don't do it, you are out of the running, period. You will not catch back on no matter what you do. Pulling up the Strava data really quick. This first climb, the Strava segment is like 4.5 miles, 1,000 foot of climbing, and we did it in 22 minutes. 12 miles an hour, and actually my power wasn't that high. But what I want to say in general, the whole story of this race is that I was down about 60 to 50 watts than I normally would be, just feeling not super strong. And so like my average power at the end of the race was close to 50 watts less than it was in like Mohican and Kahutta. So like really, like whenever I say like I almost got dropped off this, even though this number is a little bit lower than what I would normally do, it's because I was barely hanging on, and luckily I was able to. It's like we were just going so fast. One gear choice that I made in this whole situation is the BC40 is a kind of a more squishier bike, in my opinion. It's really stable and comfortable. And that's why I picked it for this race, because I wanted that really capable bike on the really technical trail parts. And I mean, they're really, really technical. I would argue they're a little bit more technical than like Pisgah. I think it's harder than Pisgah in the trail sections, if that makes sense. The bike, though, is now upgraded with flight attendant. So as we were climbing those hills, like all the lead guys were like talking to me, like they're all like, yeah, I need to get flight attendant because it's just so much faster. Like realistically, I had a huge advantage over everybody that didn't have it, and most everybody in that group was talking about how they're in the process of getting it. If you want flight attendant, let us know. I was told by some people that the bicycle station is one of the top flight attendant bike shops in the country, which we couldn't have done without y'all. So if you've bought a flight attendant from us, thank you. It's really cool whenever companies tell us like that we're like one of the best selling shops in the nation. So if you want flight attendant, we're very confident in helping you get it, so let us know. I just was kind of like looking at the Strava to remember what happened. This is an interesting little spot here. Do you see where it like loops? We actually rode on the highway. And the whole time I'm just laughing because we're literally on a highway. And I thought that was the funniest thing ever. Just a side note, there was a gentleman who rode in aero bars. He ended up beating me. I'm not sure it was because of the aero bars, to be honest with you. It's not really a great course for him. And then we rode together through, this next climb was brutal for me. And I basically did get dropped, but then it was look at how long of a descent that was. Yeah, Detweiler Run. It was a almost 3 mile descent. So I was able to catch back on to the lead group. And then right after that, on this next gravel climb right here, is where the lead group broke up. So there were still some groups in there, but I knew at that point I was kind of at the end of my line there for sticking on the lead group. Felt pretty good doing 1/4 of the race at that pace because I knew I had such a strong lead over anyone behind us. It was going to be very challenging for them to catch us or catch me, even though I was going to be slower. I actually, though, there was a couple guys who then we all kind of rode together. Some guys that I've been racing all year, finally got a chance to kind of like talk to them for the first time. And then there's just some other dudes who kind of were flowing in and out of the group as they saw fit. This is where people started to get flat tires on the single track sections. We'd come out of a trail and 3 became 2, and that was a pretty common thing to have happen. I did something interesting with my tires and my wheels. You might notice that these are not my team issue wheels. These are actually my normal Control SL wheel set. And that was an intentional choice that I made. The rocks out there, I was worried that if a rock clipped a spoke that it would just shatter. And I'm not sure it would, but I didn't want to risk it because if this hits a rock, it kind of deflects. On these team wheels, I'm not as confident that would actually happen, although I don't know. It just didn't seem like worth the risk. If the race was like just a little bit less jagged rocks, like I would probably run those wheels, but no big deal. These are still amazing wheels. So I went safer on the wheels, but I actually went riskier on the tires. These are the Maxxis Aspen, but they're the team spec ones. Team boys. And you can see these have already started to fall apart. Some of the guys after the race actually were like shocked that I was willing to run these, and honestly, I probably got lucky, because let me just start by saying these are my favorite Maxxis tires I've ever ridden. The team spec is significantly better than the normal ones. Like, I stopped using the normal ones and I was running those Schwab, like my Schwab tires. I was running those Schwab tires all year, but then I did a couple rides on these and I immediately was like, oh no, this is a great tire. We still have some in stock if you want them. Check them out. Actually, a lot of people have been ordering from us, so we're running out pretty quick, but risky decision that did end up paying off. I didn't have a single flat problem, and like I said, everybody was shocked when they saw that I was running the 170 TPI Team Edition Aspens. Highly recommend the tire. Yeah. So the next 25 miles, we had a small group, and it was super fun. We were kind of all like talking and having fun. We hit the middle aid station, and this is where I definitely got dropped. What happened was I was filling up my hydration bladder and I was holding it. And then as the gentleman was filling it up, the bag fell on the ground. So he filled up the bladder and then I had to like shove it back into the bag. And that took like 2 or 3 minutes to get it all back together. Like, cause you know, it's super, like he filled it up and so it's like super big and then I had to like shove it back in. And it wasn't like, it was hard to get to sit back in there.
Shouldn't have taken it all the way out.
It fell. Like I was trying to keep it together and it like I was holding it,
I'm
but
following that.
yeah, it fell out of my hands. And so it was like just a mistake. And by the time I got it all situated, the guys were like 100 foot up the road. I could see them. But then at the same time I was behind, I ran out of gas. So I tried to get back on, but ultimately because we had 50 miles to go, I made the choice to just do my own thing at this point. I knew in the back of my head, like I had such a strong lead at this point from anybody chasing that there was no way nobody was gonna catch me, and all I had to do was finish. And I might even be able to pick some people off if I just stayed steady. As the race progressed, I actually did start catching some people, and then interestingly enough, the 60-mile riders, the leaders of that race, caught up to me like about mile like in this downhill. So I then ended up riding with like the 3 leaders of that race, and including Brian Schwarm, who I'm friends with. Shout out to Brian. I was thinking to myself like, oh, if I can get on their wheel, I can like get towed around a little bit. But unfortunately, the timing didn't work out, and they caught me at like kind of a longer climb instead of like a flat. So like I caught the draft for a short bit, but it was unfortunately not. Had they caught me after that climb, I think it would have been beneficial, but it was just bummer. I was thinking to myself like, oh, I'll just jump on their wheels for a second. And no big deal, it just kept rolling. The next thing that happened was this like really, really intense descent that I filmed, and it's just like super on the edge, super rocky, like nowhere to stop. You just kind of have to fly through it, which I was pretty happy with how I got through that. Around this time, the guy who won the single speed race caught me. And then also the guys who were running in like 4th place, they caught me around this point too. We were kind of nearing the end of the race, like 75 mile mark, and we hit one of the last aid stations that was on a highway, and there's some cool photos from that. That's where that photo of me in the dark was taken under the highway pass. And this point is right before what I think is the biggest climb of the day. It's right here. My climb was not very good, but yeah. 2 miles, 800 feet, and it took me almost a half an hour. Just brutal. Then from there, the race basically got pretty easy, with the final climb being another really tough one. And at this point, I was completely done, but 3 miles, 20 minutes. I was almost faster on that one. Although, okay, that's interesting. Do you see how much faster I was? This was a mile longer, but it took me I was 3 minutes faster on that one. So maybe I was having a good end of the race. Some of the 60-mile guys were catching me, and so I was able to kind of catch on to them really quick, and then kind of motivated me to roll through. Oh, the race ends with this just brutal trail. It's called the Fisherman Hiking Trail or something. And you just have to hike it. Like, I don't think you could actually ride it realistically. It's just rock, a big boulder pile, and I ended up just walking through it.
How long was it?
5.5 miles, but it took me 8 minutes. to walk through that. And then you kind of finish on a bike path. Really, it's like a bike path. There's like hikers and stuff. It was pretty relaxing, other than it was like intense because it's like the finish of a race. And so ultimately the story of this event was that me digging deep in the first 25 miles of the race, nobody ever caught me. And I was able to actually catch some people that had mechanical problems and flats, and so finished 9th, which is way better than I had any business doing, to be honest with you guys.
Leading up to this race, it was like multiple times a day for a solid week. Jesse was like, I'm not gonna go, I'm not gonna go.
Yeah, I felt terrible.
And like as he was packing up the truck, he was like, I'm not gonna go.
I got to the race at midnight the night before too. It was just like all of it was just a mess. So I got 9th place, and totally worth the trip. It's funny, like the guys in front of me beat me by 20 minutes. So I basically lost 20 minutes in the last 5 miles or 50 miles. And I think if I was feeling better, I would have been able to race and hopefully have done better. That's the disappointing thing, is that I think I was capable of having an even better day had I been feeling good.
How are your NUE series points looking now?
They're still really good. I'm actually in 5th place. Let me pull it up. Okay, so I am solidly in 5th place right now. Mike is somebody who I was racing at the race, and you can see like he beat me by 20 minutes and got 7th, but had some great results. Well, let's see. Okay, so Mike's beat me twice by like a small margin, and then he had he's from Ohio, so he really crushed Mohican. My weakest race was Mohican. And so basically I have one more on the calendar, and I'm gonna be doing Shenandoah. And if I can get another top 10, I think I'll solidify this top 5 spot. I do not think I can beat Alex unless I added another race and got another top 5, but
I don't think there's another race to add.
It would have to be Margie, but that's not really realistic, I don't think. What do you think?
I'm really good at getting entries.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we'll do
Facebook
Margie
people.
on like a last minute thing. I don't think anybody else is really like within.
Oh wait, no, the date might have been August 1st for that, for transfers.
Oh, okay.
I'll check for you.
So actually though, I will say, like, if these two guys entered another race, they'll likely be able to beat me. Just because like they have some really solid results. And then I think that's, yeah, so there's 2 dudes who likely might jump me in the standings. I'm hoping that if I can drop this 1 point out, I'll move up, but it's looking like I'm gonna end up like maybe 5th, 6th, or 7th, depending on how the rest of the races shake out. I can only go to 4 of them. So it's kind of like a best I can. Honestly, I was kind of thinking about like maybe next year if I like only did these and maybe like did like 6 or 7 of them. Like
I thought about that. I've been drafting your schedule.
Yeah, just like only doing this because it's really what I enjoy doing. I've really enjoyed doing the 100 miles this year. I feel like I've made a lot of progress in learning. Like for example, I know like last time in Mohican, I rode with both of my bottles. I had beta fuel in both bottles, and I mixed both of them and put water in it, but I wasn't drinking it because it was carb mix and I was using it to supplement. Like this race, I only filled one of them, and then that way I wasn't just carrying around dead weight. And then whenever I was ready for this, I filled it up. You know, like stuff like that you learn over the course of time. And like even though I wasn't feeling good pulling off a top 10 at Wilderness, like I think what really carried me was my equipment setup and my planning. We didn't even talk about my sleeveless jersey or my see-through jersey. That was awesome.
Yeah, your mesh.
My mesh jersey was sweet. You'll see it in the thumbnail, I'm sure. But yeah, that was awesome. I loved
It was basically like fishnets in jersey form.
It was great. It felt great because it was cool, but like I didn't have to unzip it to like benefit from the coolness, you know, like I was just wearing it, and
yeah,
it was.
You were super worried about the heat going into this. So
and
he the week of ordered this.
The
like,
funny thing about that is that it was very nice out. Like it wasn't even a hot day. It could have been though. It could have been.
Well, but now you're ready for the next hot day.
I need to get another one of those jerseys. That's like my favorite jersey.
You really only need one. It's okay.
Otherwise, yeah. Nothing too crazy. Ran my 38 tooth chainring. RockShox flight attendant is awesome. Definitely buy it. And got the fit dialed in on this too. This is a -25 90 mil stem from Zip. Why are you laughing?
It's just like straight down. It's just funny.
I was looking at like the options for these.
Your fits are just so aggressive.
I think this is like the same, but it's like.
I didn't like how that one looked as much. That was the one that I missed.
I'm pretty sure this is the same, but Chase didn't like it. If everybody comments down below and you guys want me to race the FSA stem at the next race, let me know. I would have to cut the fork, I think, more, but it'd be kind of cool. Anyway, if you're going to Shenandoah, let me know. I've never done it before. Chase is going to race the 60 mile on Saturday, and I'll be racing the 100 mile on Sunday.
Yikes.
As of right now, I will be riding this bike again in prep for doing the Epic 8 versus BC40 video that everyone wants to see. I've raced that bike for the beginning of the year, not knowing really what Shenandoah is about. I don't really see, like, I don't know. Every video I've seen looks like it's a lot of kind of smoother trails with some rocks like mixed in. Seems like it's easier than Wilderness on the technicality side, but it's got more elevation gain and climbing, so it's like harder because the race is just harder. The only thing I'll say right now is that I did kind of miss the frame storage.
Oh, Jesse.
But it ended up not being a huge deal because I just put all my tools in my hydration pack. But we're gonna make that a whole video, so stay tuned. Definitely subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And so this bike will be raced at Shenandoah, and I think I'm gonna just make some minor adjustments. So we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching, and make sure to buy something if you want to support the channel.